The championships.
The academic excellence.
This way is the Roadrunner way.
The achievements are endless.
But that's not the only reason why we're here.
Our calling is higher than just wins and losses.
Degrees and awards.
No, there's more to it than that.
Our road to excellence
Is found when we
Compete passionately.
Accept responsibility.
Lead courageously.
And live unselfishly.
These principles will produce results in all the roles that we experience.
this way.
Is the Roadrunner way.
And that spirit lives in all of us.
Whether you're on campus,
Or part of the larger Dalton community.
excellence is not achieved alone.
We're all in this together.
This way.
Is the Roadrunner way.
Come with us.
This way.
This way.
This way.
This way.
This way.
This way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of The Beat. I'm Eric Simpson, Sports Information Director for Dalton State. Today, our guest is Director of Soccer for Dalton State, Saif Alsafeer. Saif, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, as always, we're going to jump right on in here. So this season is going to be unlike any other. You got the conference portion of the schedule along with the conference championship and the national tournament now being held in the spring. What presents the biggest challenge with that from moving from the fall?
I think there's some pretty unique advantages and looking at how that is all laid out. I think one of the greatest challenges, and perhaps the greatest challenge that comes to my mind, is it is quite a transition from what we usually do. So from a psychological standpoint and a physical standpoint, how can you make sure that your training periodization is correct so that they don't burn out? How do you get them peaking at the right time now that we're over 2 semesters?
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that we've spent quite a bit of time thinking about as a staff, and it's something that we would normally do under normal circumstances. I guess in a professional setting where they are training kind of 5 days a week and playing on the 6th day, and then doing that for 8 months out of the year. College soccer is very different.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually that 3-month 4-month period. So now it's flipped. So that's could be one of the unique advantages if it's done right, but it's something that you haven't had to do in college before. So trying to make sure that gets done really, really well is, I guess you could say, a unique challenge. And then of course mentally for the student athletes. This is not their job. Their job is to be a great student.
Mm-hmm.
But now that this is over 2 semesters, what kind of toll does this take on them mentally? So you have to be very strategic, I think, in the way that you're training, the way that you're planning your sessions, obviously the games. How do you kind of work that out to where they're mentally up for it? And it'll challenge them a little bit differently, I think.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more because, traditionally, you're working late July, early August in that preseason period. We've already kicked off by now in a lot of occasions, and, we're running into the cold weather part of the season in late October, early November. Now we're going to have a little bit of a portion of that, but 2, you're going to have to kick it back up again in January when it's cold weather. So it's definitely going to be something that's, unique and different. And like you said, it's going to present its own little challenges, but it's with the uniqueness, it's going to present some favorable things as well.
Sure.
So even though conference play was moved to the spring, we are going to play an abbreviated fall schedule. So from here, I'm going to turn it over to you a little bit and let you release that and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so most of the games are back-to-back women and men playing.
Mhm.
So that's really good. We're excited about that. And we're going to kick off on the 26th against Middle Georgia State, and that'll be here at home in a non-conference match. And on October 3rd, we'll travel to Knoxville, and we'll take on Johnson University. On the 10th, the women will be here at home against Carolina University, so it'll just be a women's match there.
Okay.
But then following week, we'll host Life University from right down the road on October 16th, men and women. Then we'll travel to Alabama and take on Talladega College with both teams. We'll come back to home and wrap up with 2 home games, Saturday, November 7th against Martin Methodist, and then Saturday, November 14th against the University of the Cumberlands.
That's fantastic. I know those last 2 games are going to present some challenges. Martin Methodist has made the transition to the Mid-South Conference now, so they're no longer going to be a conference member. But for the men's side, traditionally, they are a very tough opponent. The women are constantly ranked in the top 5 to top 10 in the country. Cumberland's is a top 20 team on the women's side, too, and the last time that they made the trip down to Dalton to face our men, they came away with a 4-2 victory as well, I think in 2016. So I know those last 2 are going to be real tough.
Yeah, we think so. And that was kind of looking at the balance is, you have 2 teams. So there sometimes programs are both very strong on the men and women's side.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly we have several of those that we'll be playing against. So, how do you challenge your student athletes enough and at the same time try and give them the right amount of developmental opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a challenge, but, Middle Georgia to open up with that's always a very cagey game.
It is.
So, we'll look forward to that, but that'll be, I think for both, I'm sure Middle Georgia agrees, that'll be a great test for both of us to get out there in late September and kind of see where we're at. And then you got a few other ones in there, again, that are, like you said, very, very difficult. Life on the men's side, we're in the national tournament last year, and on the women's side, they knocked off Cumberland's, who was a top 25 team last year.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got, of course, Martin Methodist and University of the Cumberlands, who are also national tournament contenders on both sides.
Right.
So it's a very challenging schedule. So we're excited to kind of see how we match up. But that's one of the unique things about being able to play in the spring as well, is that let's challenge ourselves this fall and let's see where we're at, and then let's make the changes and the updates and things of that nature that we need to make so that we can be competitive in our conference in the spring.
Absolutely. And it goes, I think this also can go the same way for Middle Georgia, but it's a conference opponent that will play non-conference, which means we'll see them again in the spring. And depending on what happens there, it could be a totally different ball club, but getting a good look at them before we hit the conference portion's definitely a leg up.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, that is awesome. So let's take a look at the teams that will hit the field beginning September 26th, whenever we kick off against Middle Georgia. Let's start with the women's team. What's the outlook there, Coach?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a very interesting outlook because we have now had 1 year to one full recruiting cycle, one full year if you want to look at it that way of a recruiting cycle. When I came in, I had about 3 months to recruit when I was brought in a couple of years ago. So that's very difficult, I think, on the women's side to recruit in such a short amount of time. So now that we've had a year, it's been very interesting, and we've been very successful. We've had some really, really interesting signings that we think are going to be very good for the program. And we've also returned some players that have been historically in the past few years very good for the program. So it's a very interesting blend of lots of experience versus maybe not as much experience, but lots of excitement and talent and energy that's going to infuse, the team along with that experience. So it's not maybe the perfect blend across the whole spectrum. you're kind of a lot of experience and then a lot of youthful new energy, and there's not a ton in between. But that's okay because again, it's one of the unique advantages about having the season over 2 semesters is that these freshmen and some of the transfers that we brought in, their adjustment period now has changed. Usually they've got about, I don't know, 4 days to adjust and then you're playing. So now they've got 4 months to adjust. And sure, we're going to play some games in the fall. There's no question. But when you look at it in the perspective of the conference, they've got a 4-month period here in the fall to figure out what it's all about and then play in the spring. And there is no question that there is a marked difference from the team that you have in the fall versus the team that you have in the spring in terms of their development, the amount of experience that they have, the maturity. So we're very excited to see what they do. And I suspect as we continue to have full amounts of time to recruit for the women's side, I really suspect that over these next couple of years, it's going to be very, very, very interesting.
Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Being able to see them in person the other day, you could tell there's a different mindset and a different tone with this women's team this year. Even just what we were doing with the team meeting as far as taking pictures, you could tell that there's a lot more focus there, but there's a lot of camaraderie as well that's already being built. Everybody already seems to be able to be getting along well, and you know how that translates well to the field whenever you have that, that built-in, that built-in element for the team.
Sure, yeah, and that's a great observation, and that's really what we're excited about. Have we brought in some good players? Sure. Have we returned some good players? Sure. We graduated some good players? Sure. That's really one element of this equation. What we're really excited about is to have our first full recruiting class to help continue to shape the culture that we laid foundations for last year. There's no question that for me is the most exciting part about the teams that will play this year for the women is that they are now they're really building the culture that we want to see. And we only see that getting better year over year.
Absolutely. I know I noticed 2 young ladies specifically who have taken an intense ownership of bringing that leadership in, 2 seniors on your roster. And that's something that wasn't necessarily lacking, but something that, some people are afraid to step on other people's toes in a sense. And sometimes when you take on a leadership role, you're going to step on people's toes. It's going to happen because you're going to have that bounce back. But those 2 young ladies definitely took that ownership. They were saying, this is what we need to do. You need to meet this time. We're going to do this practice then. And I was like, wow, all right, they're ready. They're ready to go.
GC are, those are 2 of the returners and our captains, and there's no question that their level of maturity and the fact that they were here last year to really see the foundations of the culture and the core values of the culture that we want to build. So now, like you're saying, and as you've observed, they're immediately infusing that and injecting that into the team. So last year, anytime you start somewhere, you're not alone. You've got a lot of help. But in terms of your vision, there's sometimes people want to help, but they can hear you all day. Sometimes they see it, and that's what we've had happen now. Last year is that they've been able to see some of the signs of what type of culture we're really talking about instead of just hearing what we're talking about. So now that they've seen it, now all of a sudden they become ambassadors for me and for the program, and now they go enact the culture, and that's really what we want. We want to create an environment for the culture to exist.
Right.
We want them to go enact it.
And that builds upon itself. It's not automatic, as much as sometimes we would like it to be. It takes time to build that, and I think you got that a little bit more automatically on the men's side. I think there was a part of that was there, where on the women's side, it was, you know, some maybe, you know, just like you said with Gio and Cece, somebody just needed to step up and do it, and you know they have, and that's where that foundation starts to build that, and you know it's going to be built more upon itself for years to come, and I mean that's fantastic to have and to see, and I'm proud for you and proud for the program.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of the men, I mean, we're returning just about everybody. We had a couple key players graduate, and we're very excited that they graduated, and I think they're going to do a really good job now that they're going out into the world. So we're excited about that, and we're excited for them. And we've returned a lot of experience. We've added a couple pieces that we think might be able to help us in some different ways that we lacked in last year. So we're optimistic, and I think there's a lot of potential. But of course, potential doesn't always equate to achievement. So that's one of the challenges for the men's side this year is there's no question that there's potential there, and they've gotten a taste of some good things last year. But will you achieve? And, so that's what we're constantly trying to help them remember is that it's not good enough to potentially be good. We're going to have to achieve, and that's every day. We achieve in the classroom, and we achieve in the community, and we achieve on the field. So those are the approaches that we have, and if we can achieve at a higher rate of success in those three areas, then we feel like they'll go exactly where they need to go and accomplish exactly what they need to accomplish.
Absolutely. And, even like you said at the beginning of this interview, whenever you got here, you only had 3 months really to kind of put together 2 classes on the men's side and the women's side. You had a lot of hits on that men's side that played a lot of minutes last year as freshmen that are now transitioning into sophomores. You had some players that redshirted last year that are going to factor immensely into this men's club, and you still have some leadership that's left over that has bought in, that plays hard for this school, and it's going to be they're going to be something. But I noticed one thing the other day with them is they are already like a fun-loving bunch. They all get along really well. They're absolutely hilarious talking to each other. And that's one thing you want to see, that they're loose. And I think that's going to translate well to the pitch, in the fact that they'll play loose, but they'll play hard and they'll play focused.
Yeah, no, that's again a great observation, and it's very, very interesting to see the dynamic similarities and differences between both teams. And one of the things that's great for the men is that, like you said, last year they were young. They got a lot of experience, and they got a lot of good experience. We played a lot of very good teams. We played at a high level. We played in national tournaments, so that was a great experience for them. It's the first time that Dalton State's done that,
right?
For soccer. So that there was a tremendous amount of experience that was built, and perhaps more importantly, culture. There was a culture there that was built that, hey, we work hard, and but we love each other, and we're a family, and we do it together. So now you're just seeing, you're really seeing the fruits of that labor, just even like you said, casually, in the lobby, even socially distant, and even with masks on, that they have a great time. They do, because they love each other.
They absolutely do, but they're not afraid either to hold each other accountable. It seems like no one's afraid to kind of step up and say, hey, no, or hey, we need to be doing this, or hey, get everybody's attention and tell them what's up. That's one thing I did notice about that too. And it's little things like that you notice, the communication like that translates to the pitch as well, because you're not going to be a complete soccer team unless you're talking out on the pitch. Those little things that you pick up like that and notice, that translates well to the field of play, and it's something that I'm looking forward to watching them get on the field as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and again, a great observation. It's one of those things, and that's why we're cautiously cautiously optimistic for both teams, for this year and for the years to come, is because, just what you've just identified in terms of their communication, their comfortability with each other. These are things that have to be originated over time. They have to be original. We can't manufacture that in our alchemy lab here amongst the coaching staff every day when we're brewing the session up and we're mixing all these things. We can't manufacture that. So it has to be grassroots, and that's what we need time for. Time and opportunity is something we talk about a lot, and they've had some time and they've had some opportunity. So who knows?
Absolutely. I know I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure the community is looking forward to it as well. Well, Saif, that about wraps it up with you. We want to thank you for joining us. Wanted to remind everybody we'll be here every Thursday night with a new video at 6 p.m. I'm going to have a reminder for y'all just to follow Dalton State Sports on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. And this week we have a new addition in that the men's and women's soccer program has added Instagram. And that has been a big hit so far. Lots of new followers. And if you want some soccer coverage specifically, that's where you'll find it at. The handles and the tags are always in the end credits. And, of course, this week we'll have the soccer program tags and handles with that as well. So I'm Eric Simpson, signing off. Thank you all. Have a great night.